at ABC General Hospital. Spoilers show that Alexis has spent years trying to put back together the pieces of her life that fell apart because of her own mistakes. But nothing tested her determination more than the fear of losing Scout once more. For months, the quiet ache of absence stayed with her, turning every moment awake into a reminder that motherhood was a gift she once took for granted and then lost. With the legal system changing and new opportunities opening up, she finally felt a flicker of hope, the first one she had let herself feel in years. And hope, once it stirred, soon turned into firm determination. Alexis was prepared to fight not just because she wanted Scout back, but because she felt she deserved the chance to be with her daughter once more. But she understood better than anyone that custody battles in Port Charles were always complicated. They were battlegrounds formed not just by courtroom arguments but also by alliances made quietly behind the scenes. Carly noticed the change in Alexis well before she said anything. She looked at her closely, noticing the fresh spark in her eyes, and grabbed onto it quickly, like it was second nature to her. Carly offered her encouragement as support, soft pushes, kind reassurances, and gentle reminders that Alexis deserved to take back what was once lost. But beneath Carly's kindness was a mind as sharp as any lawyer's brief. Carly needed Alexis to be strong, confident, and all in on the custody fight for one simple reason, something that didn't involve Scout at all. She needed Alexis to stand firm and act as a wall against a growing conflict between Willow and Michael. Their legal battle felt like a bomb rolling downhill, picking up speed and about to explode any second. Ready to shatter every fragile bridge Carly had been trying so hard to rebuild. If Alexis threw herself into her own custody fight, she would end up pulling attention and legal help away from Willow's growing crisis, giving Carly some much-needed time to stop Michael from messing things up. Alexis didn't realize any of this at first as she started pulling together documents, going through old case files, and facing parts of her past with a focus she hadn't had the first time she stepped into a custody courtroom. As the pieces started coming together, she felt there was something more beneath it all, something in Carly's encouragement that seemed urgent and oddly exact. Carly wasn't just being supportive. She was giving her a hard time, helping her find the way. She took that momentum and turned it into part of a plan that was much bigger than just Alexis's own fight. At first, Alexis just told herself it was friendship. After all, Carly had gone through a lot over the years, but being indifferent was never part of who she was. The more Alexis saw how Carly's eyes narrowed whenever deadlines or hearings came up, the clearer it became that there was something unspoken driving her beneath that smooth, optimistic surface. Willow and Michael's tension had been building up for weeks, starting off slow but then quickly spiraling in a way that only two people tied together by grief, fear, and being parents could really understand. Their legal troubles put everything at risk, from Michael's shaky peace to the mess of emotions Willow was already dealing with. Carly couldn't handle the idea of going through another disaster tied to Corinthos, especially since she was just starting to put her life back in order. So she just did what came naturally to her. She changed the whole direction of the fight. Alexis's custody battle would stir up a lot of distraction and pressure in the legal system, pulling attention away from Michael and Willow just enough for Carly to step in quietly. It felt chilly. They had thought it through. It was all about survival. But Alexis wasn't a pawn, not now. The more she saw Carly quietly pulling the strings, the more a feeling of unease settled deep inside her. She could spot manipulation the moment it showed up. She had been caught by it so many times that she could recognize its smell in the air. Carly meant well, wanting to stay loyal to her family. But Alexis wasn't about to let her own views get lost in someone else's plans. She wanted Scout back, but she wanted it honestly, not like some hidden plan pretending to be support. She started noticing more how Carly steered the talks, how she flinched every time Willow's name came up, and how she managed to keep Michael's temper in check. The more Alexis looked into her case, the messier it all seemed to get. Legal deadlines collided with emotional traps. Scout's needs clashed with Willow's worsening situation. Michael's desperation only made Carly more anxious, worried that one wrong step could blow everything up into a public mess. What started as a personal fight gradually grew into a messy web of tangled disputes, all getting more complicated as the word about Alexis making a new custody claim began to spread through Port Charles. Lawyers whispered among themselves. Judges looked surprised. As the tension grew, Willow's case started to fall apart in ways Carly hadn't expected. The result was like a wild storm, messy and unpredictable, and almost impossible to keep in check. Carly was trying to handle too many things at the same time, and she started losing control. Her confidence was shaking as more problems kept coming up. Alexis found herself caught between wanting to protect Scout and starting to realize that her own fight might actually be making a bigger problem worse. She could sense she was at a turning point, either go after Scout with all her energy or take a step back to tuck out what Carly had gotten her wrapped up in. After months without that feeling, Alexis finally felt the old, familiar tremor in her chest. Again, the uneasy sense that she was close to uncovering a harsh truth, one that could make her pick between justice and survival. And deep down, she was sure of one thing: this custody battle wasn't just hers anymore. Things were turning into a war, one that could change every fragile bond in Port Charles. Just one wrong step from breaking families apart in ways no one was ready for. Alexis never thought she'd end up holding a secret that could change the future of almost every family in Port Charles. She had uncovered plenty of truths in her legal career. But this discovery was on a whole different level, evidence tying Willow to actions so serious and morally troubling that just revealing it could ruin marriages, tear custody arrangements apart, and completely shatter the fragile sense of security everyone held on to. At first, Alexis just wanted to bury it. She didn't want to turn someone's mistake against them or add to the endless back and forth of revenge and manipulation that seemed to run through so many legal fights around here. The more she thought about what it meant, the clearer it became that she didn't really have any other option. This wasn't just gossip. It wasn't just a guess. It was a truth that had to be faced, and Carly was the only one strong enough to handle it without breaking. When Alexis faced Carly, her voice quiet and tight, the atmosphere seemed to change. Carly sat quiet, the truth sinking in what Willow had done, what almost happened, and how she'd tried to hide it all behind the gentle mask of being a victim and a mother. Carly stayed quiet and didn't say a word. She didn't even blink. By the time Alexis was done, Carly's face had turned cold and firm, like she wasn't going to back down. Alexis thought she'd see shock or maybe disbelief, but instead she saw calculation. A quick check. A mother piecing together the chaos of the battlefield in her head. For Carly, Willow's crime wasn't just a slip-up. It was a chance to make something happen. A weapon. She found a way to protect Michael like she never had before. Carly had spent months seeing Michael fall apart because of Willow's choices, watching as his role as a father got shaken up by the fights in court and the emotional pressure. Now all of a sudden she had some real, undeniable leverage. If Willow's secret were ever exposed, Michael would get the upper hand not just in their marriage fight but also in the struggle over Wiley and Amelia. The judges would probably agree with him. Legal guardians might rethink where they stand. People's opinions would change a lot. And Willow, who was already fragile, would end up losing her credibility, authority, and power. Carly was able to keep her son safe. She was able to make sure her grandchildren would have a safe future. She managed to calm the chaos before it got out of hand. As Carly's thoughts spun faster, Alexis could feel a growing unease settling in her chest. She shared the truth because it had to come out, not because she wished for Carly to start a full-scale war. Alexis knew how much damage the secret could cause. She understood that Willow's actions couldn't be justified. But she also realized that bringing them to light might cause problems much bigger than just a custody fight. Willow's mental stability, her job at the hospital, and her relationships with almost everyone she cared about could all fall apart in a heartbeat. Carly's urge to protect Michael was strong and made sense, but Alexis was concerned that Carly's drive might push this secret into a place neither of them could handle. Still, Carly wouldn't give up. Her protective instincts kicked in with sharp and frightening focus. She started planning right away, figuring out who to tell what to keep quiet, and how to tell the story so Michael looked like the steady, dependable parent, while Willow looked like she was falling apart under the pressure of her own decisions. Carly wasn't cruel. She didn't even feel vengeful. She was just set on protecting her son and grandchildren from a woman she had come to see as a threat, someone who seemed harmless but was actually risky. But under Carly's determination, there was something darker, the quiet excitement of finally taking back control in a fight she had been losing for way too long. As the plans came together, Alexis felt a rising sense of dread watching everything change. What she meant as a warning was quickly turning into a weapon. What she had hoped would lead to a straightforward talk was turning into a planned attack. Carly started figuring out how to weaken Willow's credibility without looking spiteful, thinking about how to increase the pressure on her while still coming across as a caring grandmother in public. Alexis tried to step in, telling Carly that the point was justice, not tearing things apart. But Carly hardly seemed to hear her. Carly was already on the battlefield, and it would take something truly terrible to make her turn around. Alexis was afraid that disaster was exactly what lay ahead for them. Right now, Willow felt the walls closing in, but she wasn't about to back down without a fight. She fought back like someone who knew everything she had was on the line. Michael, stuck between loyalty and truth, was the one who'd take the emotional hit first. Wiley and Amelia, just kids who didn't get what was going on, ended up as pawn signs, and victims in a fight they never chose to be part of. And the town, always keeping an eye out, would split itself apart quickly. There wouldn't be any neutral ground. Once the secret got out, there was no avoiding what came next. Alexis didn't see it coming until it was too late. Telling Carly the truth had started a series of events that nobody could really manage. Not Carly. Not Michael. Not Willow. Not even she recognized herself. The storm was rolling in quickly, wild and relentless. And when it hit, everything in Port Charles was changed. Nothing there stayed the same. Carly had pushed boundaries before, but nothing quite like this. When she finally knew she had enough evidence to put Willow away, something changed inside her. It wasn't about being mean, but about a steady, clear sense of purpose. Willow's mistakes weren't just vague moral slip-ups anymore. They had become real crimes. The kind that could tear apart Port Charles and ruin Michael's life if no one stepped in. Carly realized something nobody else wanted to face: the only way to keep Michael Wiley and Amelia safe was to completely cut Willow out of the picture. And if that meant putting her in prison, Carly wouldn't even think twice before doing it. She didn't like the idea, but she wasn't about to let Willow's downward spiral tear apart everything her son had worked so hard to create. As Carly put the timeline together, hidden lies, secret evidence, things Willow did when no one was watching, the sense of control in her hands started to feel almost addictive. She wasn't just responding to the chaos anymore. She was the one controlling it. With each step, the invisible leash around Willow's neck grew tighter. With each new discovery, the weapon Willow had accidentally given her grew sharper because of her own careless mistakes. Carly moved carefully and with purpose, letting suspicion grow slowly, while she pulled together the last pieces to bring about a legal downfall Willow they wouldn't be able to bounce back from. The more she got ready, the more the mood around her started to change. People felt like something was shifting. There's a fresh tension hanging in the air, a kind of uncertainty that feels like a storm brewing just out of sight. And right in the middle of all that chaos, Michael sat there, not knowing his mother was quietly working to bring him back to power. For months he'd felt stuck, torn between loyalty and fear, between being a dad and feeling drained. Willow's decisions had taken away his authority, worn down his confidence, and turned his whole life upside down. The custody agreements, the constant back-and-forth negotiations, and the daily fight to shield Wiley and Amelia from Willow's ups and downs, it had all taken a toll on him, to the point where even hope felt heavy. But now something felt different. Willow felt the control she once had starting to slip away. The legal footing beneath her was starting to lean in his favor. Michael felt it coming before he even knew the reason. As people started to suspect more, they began looking at Willow with rising questions, doubts, and quiet whispers of worry. Carly made sure not to reveal anything too soon, but she quietly arranged things so that Willow's weaknesses were clear while Michael came across as calmer, steadier, and more ready to take on the role of custodial parent. Willow, caught up in her own spiraling actions, didn't realize that the story people told about her was starting to shift. But everyone else did. Judges, lawyers are people who help with legal matters. They give advice, represent clients in court, and handle legal documents. Their job is to make sure the law is followed and to protect their clients' rights. Family is everything. Even the people who used to stand by her started to feel that something wasn't right. Something beyond just tiredness or bad choices. Willow's actions didn't seem like mistakes anymore. They felt like real danger. This change just made Carly more determined. Each day, her plan got a little clearer and more thought out. She wasn't just aiming to win the legal argument. She wanted to shut down every way Willow might try to challenge Michael again. Carly didn't suggest prison on a whim. She saved it for last, only using it when she was sure the consequences couldn't be undone. The more she saw Willow fall apart, the clearer it became that jail might be the only way to keep Wiley and Amelia safe from the mess their mother was causing This realization sparked a new kind of obsession in Carly, not fear or hate, but a strong protective instinct that turned into a clear plan. She started putting documents together and quietly talked with trusted lawyers, setting Michael up as the parent who could steady things. She hadn't told him the whole truth, not up to this point. She needed the timing to be perfect and the evidence solid. She also understood that sooner or later she'd have to come clean about everything what Willow did, the crimes, and the fallout that could no longer be avoided. At the same time, Willow felt like the walls were closing in on her even though she couldn't figure out why. She felt like someone was watching her more closely and noticed how conversations stopped the moment she got near. Her guilt ate away at her, making her nervous and jumpy. Her fear pushed her to act without thinking. She started spinning out of control, not realizing that with every mistake, Carly was gaining more fuel to use against her. The harder Willow tried to keep things under wraps, the clearer it became that she wasn't stable, and that made her look even more dangerous to the authorities. In a strange way, Carly didn't even have to push anymore. Willow was taking on the burden for her, slipping further into the darkness of her own downfall. By the time Carly finished her plan, the change in power was clear to everyone. Michael, who had been backed into a corner, was now close to taking back everything: his custody rights, control, and respect. The future that used to feel uncertain now felt within reach. Even though he still didn't understand the full truth about Willow's crimes, he felt lighter and more steady, like he could finally take a deep breath. What he didn't see was that the calm he felt was standing right on the edge of a coming disaster. When Willow's crimes finally came out and the law came down hard on her, Port Charles was thrown into chaos. Families would split apart. Alliances would fall apart. And Michael, even though he was guarded, would end up standing amidst the ruins of a war he never meant to start. Carly was already aware of all this, but she was sure about one thing without a doubt: she'd rather see the whole system go up in flames than let Willow take anything else from her son. Once that belief took hold, it changed everything.